Welcome, everyone. We're about to start. Good morning. Mark, take it away. We're all ears.
Sure thing, sure thing. So listen, I know we have a smaller group today. I'm all about an active chat. So I'm just going to ask all of you that are here if you can just hop into the chat that's on the bottom right of your window, the little box. Just put like one or two words of like what industry you're in or what your business is. I just like to kind of know who's on the call and what people's businesses are. So, and I'm talking to all of you. So if you can drop it in there. I would appreciate it. With a smaller group, it's that participation is really helpful. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Raise your hand. I'm happy to make this interactive. But we've also got some exciting content to get to. So as you probably know from the marketing, as you know from Paulie, today we're going to talk about how to make sure your business can get found on ChatGPT. And while ChatGPT is going to be on a lot of the slides today, make no mistake, we're really talking about AI in general, because a lot of the things today that are derived from ChatGPT are looking to be pretty true across other AIs like Gemini and things like that. Okay, so let's dive in. What are we going to talk about today? So a couple different things. Let's talk about why some businesses show up when people search on ChatGPT and why others don't. We'll talk a little bit about how potential clients and customers of yours are searching today, because that's shifting with the introduction of AI. All right, we'll talk about what goes into ChatGPT actually recommending a business. Okay, and this is the big change that we're going to talk about a lot today, because it's not like traditional search, right? AI is actually making a recommendation, and I think that's a key word to really understand and differentiate. And then, of course, and most importantly, I hope your takeaway from all of this is you begin to realize that AI search is a huge lead opportunity for your business, okay? Because I think you're going to see more and more of the energy going there. So here's kind of my bold statement for the day, all right? ChatGPT represents a generational opportunity for small businesses. I don't think it's underscoring it to point out that really this is not all that different than the introduction of search engines to begin with. And think about how that dramatically shifted the landscape, right? Drop a yes or an oh yeah in the chat if you remember the days of the yellow pages, right? Okay. For a lot of us, that's, like that's so far away, we don't even know what it is. But think about how much that changed things, okay? Now, the thing is with AI, yes, it's still happening on the internet, and obviously Google, which owns search engines, right? Google has their own AI as well. I'm not here to prognosticate if Google's AI is going to win, or if ChatGPT is going to win, or something else is going to win. But what I do feel very confidently in saying is that this is equal to, if not greater than, when internet search came out, because of the power AI currently has and is going to have even more in the future to actually make unique recommendations and give unique answers as people are searching for things. Okay, so I think it's really great you're here today, and my hope is at the end of this, you feel like you at least have a good jumping off point to make sure you're getting ahead of the game when it comes to AI search, and making sure that you're priming your business so that AI is recommending you, showing you to potential clients, etc. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So let's talk about how people actually use AI, ChatGPT, etc. The first one, you all probably do this yourself, is we ask it questions, right? Okay, so how can I do blank? How can I solve for blank? All right, and so my first tip for you today is your content needs to answer these kinds of questions. And we'll talk more about that content later, but content could be a lot of things, okay? It could be blogs, it could be just your website pages, it could be videos, it could be a podcast, it could be social media. But overall, you want your content that you create, that you put on the internet, to answer the kinds of questions people are asking, okay? And by the way, we have a slide a little bit later that's going to talk a little bit more about the difference between SEO and kind of what we're seeing now. But the truth is there is a lot of overlap. Okay, in the past, traditional Google search would give you credit for answering questions and things like that. But Google was also looking for a bunch of other things that we'll briefly touch on later. But even more than ever now, right, the AI wants to help people solve their problems. A lot of you have probably seen where ChatGPT will even give bad answers and things like that sometimes. But, you know, and I'm not defending it, but part of why it does that is because they've programmed into it that more than anything, it wants to help you. Okay. So even if you give it a bad idea, it's likely to tell you it's not a bad idea. But the reason that matters to our conversation today is because if you think about that, what the AI wants to do is give the best possible answer for the person asking it. Okay. So when you're creating content, you want to be thinking about your ideal client, the kinds of questions they're asking, right? And the answers that you want to give. You'll see on the right-hand side, that's just a screenshot from ChatGPT asking it about using a CRM for a small business, right? And you'll see that it just goes right into recommending, you know, really specific tools. What goes into that? Why did this result recommend high level, HubSpot, Zoho? Why didn't it recommend Salesforce? A lot of different variables go into that. And if you did that same search right now, you might get different answers. And that's really interesting to think about. Right? As where if we're both in downtown Miami and we do the same exact search in Google, we're probably going to get very similar results. So it's really interesting, the nuance that's happening there. The second thing people are doing, and this is kind of the same thing, but we did a separate slide for it, and I'll explain why, is they're asking for recommendations. So it's one thing to go to the AI and say, hey, I need help solving this situation or this problem, or how do I do X, Y, or Z? Okay, it's another thing to then very specifically go and say, I need a CRM, or I need a personal injury attorney, or, you know, I need an EOS implementer, or what even is EOS and how do I do it, right? And that's actually like, let's actually use that question as an example because it's something everyone here understands. I absolutely could use both Google search and AI to say, hey, recommend an recommend an EOS implementer for me, right? But where things really change with AI is when I just go to the AI and I say, hey, help me better understand EOS, like this thing someone told me about, right? And then the AI automatically tells me about it, but it also automatically says, and hey, if you want to hire an EOS implementer, here's maybe why you should, and here's some recommendations. So the AI is only going to keep evolving to where somebody might not even be asking specifically for what you do yet, but the AI understands they might need something like that, and the AI goes a step further and recommends it. Right? So that's why this is really important, because it's not just going to be this black and white, hey, I need blank, right? It's going to be, hey, here's my situation. Here's what I'm solving. Here's what I want help with. Here's what I want you to educate me on. And then you want the AI to recognize that it's important that somebody recommends your business in those situations. So for example, for the implementers that are on here today, and I know there's a lot of businesses that aren't, just I'm using EOS because it's an easy example for everyone, but creating content that talks about the importance of hiring an implementer, right? Self-implementation versus hiring an implementer, things like that. Because the AI is going to see that content and then use that advice when somebody asks a question around EOS, even if they're not specifically asking for that recommendation, okay? Give me some yeses if this is making sense so far, or throw in a question or two if there's any aspect that's not in the chat, just so I kind of know where we're at. Awesome, awesome. Cool. If anybody has a question, though, don't hesitate to ask. I'll do my best to answer. All right. So it's all in all, though, it's really simple when you break it down how people are using AI, right? They're asking for recommendations, but they're also just asking questions. They're also looking for information. They're trying to get educated. And so AI opens up more opportunities than traditional search does to actually recommend your business. So what goes into how the AI is going to decide what answer it gives? And this is where we're going to spend a lot of time, right, for the rest of our 30 minutes or so together. Okay. Well, we got a question here. When we talk content, is this social media content or on your web pages? It's both. It's both. It's all the above. This is a question from the chat. We're going to talk more about that as we keep going, but it's not that you have to do all content everywhere, but anywhere you're going to do content, the advice I give you today is going to apply. So whether you're doing social media, blogs, videos, podcasts, web pages, etc., the advice I give you will apply. Now, certainly the more places you do content, the higher chance you're going to have of building some of the credibility and trust signals that we're about to talk about. Okay, so great question, but I think we'll tackle some of that as we keep going. So looking at the slide on the screen now, how does ChatGPT decide, another AI decide whether or not they're recommending you or somebody else? Okay, the core thing that's going to do, really not surprising, it's going to pull from across the internet. It's going to pull from your website and any other websites, directories, things like that that may have information about you. So, you know, you don't have to go seek this out, but like there are a lot of industries where there are like third-party websites that can provide reviews and recommendations and things like that. Like that's really popular in SaaS businesses. So that's just an example of like a directory. But for most of you today, it's really probably just your website and the content you do on there. Any blogs and articles you might create, videos. Another big one though, that's kind of a little bit of a sleeper here, is forums, things like Reddit, Quora, things like that. Not saying you have to skyrocket that to the top of your list, but it is important to know that the AI has access to forums and things like that. And so if your business is showing up in positive ways, or your business is present in those things, answering questions, like there's a lot of ways that you can kind of tap into some benefits if your business gets active in forums and things like that. So I'm not taking an extra second on that because I think that's the most important thing today, but I'm taking an extra second on it because I think it's something that a lot of businesses just don't think about. So I just wanted to explain that. But you know, I would say everything on that list is valuable, and certainly getting your website right and your content like blogs, videos, social media, those would probably be the priorities. Okay. And by the way, what you're going to find over these next 20, 30 minutes is I'm starting up here and I'm going to get more granular as we keep going. So like these next 3 bullets, I realize those are kind of macro. Stay with me because we're going to get more micro as we keep going. Okay. What it's doing macro, what it's doing big picture is the AI is going to prioritize its answers based on information it has access to. That's information that you're creating and you're putting out there through your website and everything at the top of the slide. So how is it prioritizing that? Based on the clarity of the answers it can find, the answers that you're giving in your content. It's also looking for trusted sources, what we call trust signals. And in 2 slides, I have a whole list of what some of those trust signals are. So I told you we're going to get more micro. So hang with me. We're going to get to that in a moment. And then also consistency is really important. Consistent information. This is actually one that was a little bit, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but when we were doing our own research into this, this was one that we went, oh, that's interesting. We may not have thought of that as critical. But what consistent information means is it starts with name, address, phone number. Like, is that information consistent for your business anywhere it shows up online? Your website, your social media profiles, any directories you're listed on, any maps listings, okay? And then it's also true within your messaging. Is the messaging consistent? Is your core purpose, right? If you have that in your marketing, is that consistent? Anything you put out there, is it consistent from a messaging standpoint? Because the AI needs to make sure that when it's doing its research, that it is properly identifying your business and not accidentally combining your business with somebody else's. For example, my marketer is our core business right now. But as Paul, we told you in the opening, I started a traditional marketing agency about 15 years ago. It's called Spotlight Marketing and Branding. It's not the only marketing agency with the word Spotlight in its name. So if AI is doing research and wants to recommend that agency, how does it make sure to not get my Spotlight confused with another Spotlight, right? So, and the more confident the AI is, the more likely it is to recommend you as well. So just some interesting things to keep an eye on. It's not just about clear answers. It's not just about the trust signals we're going to talk about in a minute, you also want to go do an audit and make sure that your name, phone number, address, messaging, etc., are consistent in all the places they show up. Okay? So that's macro, what goes into how the AI determines the answer. All right? But I'm going to give you one more thing before we get more micro. And I am getting a little bit into predicting the future here. But increasingly, I think the biggest thing it's going to prioritize isn't just information. It's going to be prioritizing the individual. Okay? So if any of you are distracted right now, I'm not saying you are, but if any of you are, zone in on me for this one piece. And then if you want to go disappear the rest of the morning, you can, although I hope you don't. And that's that answers from AI will only become more and more custom to the person asking the AI for help. This is the biggest game changer of the whole thing, because what's going to happen is more and more of these AIs are going to get to know us, like you, the individual. Even in ChatGPT right now, you can actually teach it about yourself. That's only going to happen more and more and more, not just with ChatGPT, but Gemini and others. Okay. So what's going to happen is when you go ask for help or a question or a recommendation, your answers are going to be uniquely tailored to what the AI already knows about you, your preferences, your business, even over time, like how you're wired, right? What you like, what you don't like. I'm a big Gary Vee fan, Gary Vaynerchuk. And he had a prediction a while back that I thought was spot on. He said, look, it's going to get to the point where you're not even going to ask for the recommendation. You're going to tell the AI to just go do the thing for you. The example he gave was it's Friday night and you want to order, you don't feel like cooking, so you want to order some pizza for the family. You're not going to ask the AI for recommendations. You're just going to tell the AI, go order some pizza. Now the AI is going to literally choose what pizza shop gets the business. Right? So I thought that's a really interesting prediction. I don't think he's far off, right? Because the AI is going to know that family, their preferences, you know, what they like, and things like that. So I want you to be thinking about your target market. What makes them want you, right? Who's your avatar? And think more and more about how your content speaks to them specifically, right? Because we all obviously want more clients, but I think we could all agree, and give me some yeses in the chat if you agree, or if you disagree, that's okay too. But I think we all also want good clients. We want the clients that are the right fit for our values, our personality, how we're wired, right? Like just because somebody has a need that we solve doesn't make them always the right customer for us, right? Right, exactly. Isabel said we want the right client. Exactly. AI is actually creating an opportunity. If you take this seriously, AI is creating an opportunity for you to have an easier time getting more of the right clients, to use Isabel's language there. That's what I want you to think about. So how are you, through your content, speaking in very specific ways that you think you're going to connect with your target market? Okay, I'll use a really simple example. I think we had 1 or 2 law firms in here today. I have a lot of experience doing marketing for law firms myself. So a really simple example would be if you're a family law firm and you specialize in divorce, right? There's a few different approaches to that, right? One law firm might take more of kind of an aggressive approach. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it might be more of like we're here to fight for you, right? And there are people that may be in the situation they're in, they feel like that's what they need. They need someone to fight for them because maybe they're in a situation where they're worried that they're going to get wronged in some capacity. But then I know other family law firms that their approach, their energy, their personality is more of one that's about like creating new beginnings and thinking about like your future beyond the divorce. I know some that are more focused on, it being more amicable and things like that. So your content is an opportunity to have those things that make how you do what you do unique come through so that the right person is finding you. Because if somebody's looking for that super aggressive law firm and they go hire the law firm that is more about like creating peace in an amicable situation, they're going to be very frustrated, right? And same thing if it happens in the reverse situation, okay? So hopefully that's making sense. This This slide, what I'm telling you right now, this is happening as we speak. So everything on the previous slide, I'm just going to go back for like 5 seconds. Everything here is the main thing right now. But what we're seeing is it shifting more and more to being subjective, more and more to the AI giving unique answers to you. If two of you go ask AI the same question about a business need you might have, or a consumer need you might have, you might very well already be getting different answers. Okay. All right. I told you we're going to dive into trust signals, that we're going to get more micro. So let's do that. By the way, you might have noticed on a couple of slides, I have a QR code at the top. If anyone does want to connect with me or my company, feel free to scan that, schedule a call. If you have any interest or need some marketing help, and we do provide part and full-time marketing assistance. And so feel free to scan that. That's on a couple slides. I just wanted to mention why that was up there. But all right, let's dive into some of these. And if you have any questions about these, feel free to jump into the chat and throw the questions in there. But let's actually talk about some of the very specific things you can do to create those trust signals, okay? First one, I already touched on this, is the accurate and consistent information across listings. NAP doesn't stand for NAP. It stands for name, address, phone. Okay, so just making sure that information is correct along the way. High quality, original on-site content. Again, probably not a surprise to most of you, but it's becoming even more important. It's not just high quality, it's not just original, but it's personalized. Okay. Third-party links and mentions are still valuable. This was very much an SEO thing back in the day, still really important. Now it's a little bit less about just it being a link, and it's more actually about the mention, the review, the recommendation. So if other websites, if other directories, if forums, like I mentioned, Reddit and things like that earlier, social media, if other people, other websites are talking about you, that can be a really helpful thing as well. And of course, that leads to positive reviews. These are not necessarily organized by priority. To be honest with you, it would have been a little bit audacious for us to even think that that's something we can fully understand yet. Okay, but what we do know for sure is that positive reviews might actually be towards the top of the list. Because remember, more than anything, the AI wants to make sure it's recommending like the most trustworthy and credible, right, at whatever you're asking for. So getting more reviews, getting good reviews, getting detailed reviews. If you're not already, I would recommend prioritizing this in your business. I believe that in the next 12 to 36 months, we're going to see reviews have an even greater impact than they already do on what the AI is doing. It just logically makes sense that that would be something that, because we already know that Google started to do this with traditional search. And so it just makes sense but the AI is actually going to be able to not just look at your reviews, look at the number of reviews, but it's also going to be able to read the content of your reviews. It's going to actually be able to understand what people are saying about your business, what was good or what wasn't good. And again, as the AI gets to know me more as the user, it's going to be able to use that information from reviews to give me a better recommendation. Okay. All right. Is this helpful so far? Just do a quick check-in with everyone. Let me know where everyone's at. Making sense so far? Some new information. Is it making sense, this idea of the unique answers per user and kind of how you want to play with that in terms of your target market and things like that? Okay, good. I appreciate the answers there. Thanks, everyone. Great. All right, we'll keep this train moving here. This is an interesting one, pricing. Okay, and I know this can be a sensitive topic. I am not going to go on record as saying all of you should put your pricing on your website. There might be numerous reasons why for your industry that might not make sense. But what we do know is that the AI really likes when you do. Because the AI then feels like it can do what? It can help the person it's trying to help even better, right? Again, that's the AI's goal, is to help me as much as possible. And if pricing is available, that's helpful information, okay? And keep this in mind too, pricing doesn't always have to be a pricing page with exact specs. Pricing could be something you include in a blog. Pricing could be something you include on a page in a paragraph where you talk about the typical cost of something or the range of something, okay? So I'm not necessarily saying that everyone has to put their exact hourly rate or their exact pricing, but making sure you have content that talks about pricing and how pricing works in your business. Okay. You could go a step further and talk about what's high pricing, what's low pricing. Why are things priced the way they are? What would be considered a good rate? What do you get when you pay more versus when you pay less in your industry? Okay, so everything's not just about answering these questions. It's how do you also go a layer deeper, because then you're just feeding the internet and you're feeding AI more depth that it can tap into. Okay, so I would at least comment on pricing in some capacity, even if it's in a paragraph or an FAQ and it's just giving a range, all the way to an actual pricing page, or even to discussing pricing strategy and advice in your content. Okay. Demonstrated expertise and thought leadership. This shouldn't be a surprise. This was very true in the days of SEO and things like that as well. Your about page on your website, it doesn't have to be your about page, but on your website content, talking about your key selling points, your core purpose, why you guys do what you do. If you like to have your core values be outward facing, great, share those. But think about your website as a brochure that doesn't just tell people what you do, but that also tries to help people understand if they're the right fit for you, right? And yes, this would be best if it's like in an about page or something like that, because that's not only where a human would obviously look if they're trying to better understand the DNA of your business, but that's where the AI is going to look, because that's just logical. Okay. But the more you can talk about that throughout your content, the better. But definitely start with an about page. If you haven't visited your about page in a while on your website, this might be a good time to go revisit and make sure it really delivers the messaging that you want it to. Fresh content. All right, this has been around since SEO as well, but it hasn't changed. All right, so you could blog consistently, you could post videos consistently, you could post on social media consistently, you could put out a podcast consistently, you could do some stuff with email, like newsletters and things like that, and then you could actually share them on your website or on social media as well to create more content there, not just in email inboxes. There's some fun things you can do there. Like every time you send out a newsletter, you can create like an archive of it. But really, your top of the list ways to have fresh content are going to be blogs, videos, social media, things like that. Okay. If you have any industry awards, certifications, or badges, we used to put this kind of stuff on our website because it was just good marketing, like visually. But now it's really important that you make sure that the robots, the AI, understand these awards, these certifications, and things that your business has. So don't just put the image on your website, but maybe have a blog, a press release, or a section of your website that talks about these awards you like. If any of you have won like a Best Places to Work award, or I know there's a lawyer or two here, if you're board certified in something, like talk about what these certifications mean. Talk about what these awards mean, right? Okay. And you could do that in a press release, and about page, and so forth. Okay. A couple just kind of nerdy things for a moment as we wrap up this slide. Make sure you have an SSL certificate on your website. That's a security measure. You want to make sure you have things like privacy policies, schema markup. If you don't know what that is, talk to your web developer. It's something that they really either should have used a plugin for or done themselves, but it's just a way of behind the scenes. Think about it like a table of contents for your website. Okay. So it's called schema markup. And then site load time, like how fast your website is. And there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to measure that. Those last 3 or 4 bullets are just some things that the AI is going to use as trust signals to make sure your website's secure, you're legitimate, you have privacy policy, you've used schema to kind of organize your website properly under the hood, which allows the AI to like better navigate and understand your website. Okay. So just a couple nerdy things to understand there. Any questions from this slide? Any questions or comments from the chat before we keep going here? And you're welcome to screenshot this. I have a little bit of an action plan slide at the end it's going to summarize everything from today, but It's not going to be as granular as some of these slides. So if you see anything you like along the way, feel free to screenshot it. All right, got a question in the chat from Olivia. Thanks, Olivia. Let's see. If we have pages that are landing pages not linked from the main website, will that still be indexed by AI, or does it need to be scannable from the main site? Olivia, landing pages absolutely should be scannable from the AI unless the platform you're using has some sort of like on-off toggle to whether or not the word you're looking for is indexed. Okay, like there are times where people don't want their landing page to be found by search engines. Like maybe the only traffic you want to that landing page is like from ads you're running. So I would just double check that, right, to make sure that your landing pages are indexed by search engines. But to be honest with you, what I don't know at this time is if AI, if that means AI wouldn't still be able to find it even if it wasn't indexed. So your safest bet's probably to make sure that it's indexed, because I do think we can safely assume that if search can find it, AI can find it. What I don't know that the opposite's true, though. Just because search can't find something doesn't mean that AI might not be able to, or at least I'm sure it eventually will be able to. But that's just the thing to check right now in your settings. And if you have no idea how to figure this out, I would actually go tell ChatGPT, here's where my landing pages are. I'm using them in this software. I want to make sure they're indexed by search engines. How do I double check that? All right. So hope that helps. Absolutely. All right. Let's keep going. So fun little thing that I'd love a couple of you to do right now. Open up chatgpt.com in your browser and type something along the lines of, I'm looking for blank. Put your type of business in blank, right, in your city. Who do you recommend? And I would love a couple of quick yes or no's in the chat. Did ChatGPT recommend your business? Appreciate that, Plowman. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Give it a quick try. Just give me a yes or a no. Did it recommend your business? Kind of. I like that. All right, it's just kind of a fun thing to do. And you know what? Like, it's gonna give everyone different answers. And so even though you might have put in your city, the honest truth is that, depending on how much you used AI, it might have also got to know you a little bit better. And so, all right, we got a few yeses. Great. And look, to be honest with you, those of you that got yeses, I wouldn't rest on your laurels either, because the AI might be recommending it because, of course, it's gotten to know you a little bit and would probably recommend your business to you, right? If that makes sense. So it doesn't mean that's the case, but it's fun to go have some of your employees or even your friends do this and just kind of see what answers they get. So, all right, let's keep going here. I told you earlier that I wanted to unpack a little bit more SEO versus GEO. We've really been talking about this, but I want to lean into it a little bit more. By the way, GEO, that's just kind of the new term for AI engine optimization. I've seen AEO a lot as well, right? AI engine optimization. GEO stands for generative engine optimization. Okay, so you might see AEO, you might see GEO, but either way, this is what I was saying earlier when I told you this was a generational opportunity. We are seeing SEO in real time being replaced by GEO. Okay. And by the way, like Google's on this, right? Like, I don't know I'm sure some of you already noticed it. Sometimes when you search in Google, it's the traditional results. Other times you search in Google and you get that AI paragraph at the top, right? Like, we're already seeing this shift with even Google, right? And it's not just Google. I think there's, a couple billion users on ChatGPT, right? So this is happening. So real quick, what are some of the differences with SEO? Okay, for the last, 20 years, 25 years, it's been all about keywords, right? It's been all about putting the right keywords on your website, in your blogs, in your content. It's been about optimizing the pages. It's been about creating backlinks, kind of doing all these things to like game the system, right? Almost as if you're trying to like trick Google into thinking that your business deserves to be number one. And I use that language a little bit facetiously, right? But, I've also heard a lot of people say, I can't believe that these two competitors of mine are ranked higher than me. I've been around longer than them, or I do a better job than them, right? But that's kind of what I mean. Like, traditional SEO did not always necessarily reward the best, right? It rewarded those who were best at figuring out the game, right? I think GEO is really an opportunity to rectify that, because now the AI is essentially going to be able to look at the whole picture, both of your business, which does include things like how long you've been around and how good you are at what you do, but also, like I've been saying, look at the individual doing the search and actually make better recommendations. Okay. So the shift we're seeing is this old world where it was about competing for clicks. And now it's about making sure that your content answers real questions, that it's structured, that it's clear, and that you're creating content really, really specific to who your ideal market is, so that when those users are doing the search, AI is going to recommend you, right? So even though we had a little bit of fun with the last slide and doing the search yourself, you do take it with a grain of salt, because it's not like SEO. With SEO, if I reached number one on Google for my thing in my city, I was number one pretty much no matter who searched. But I want to make sure all of you hear that all indicators are that's not the way AI is going to work. 5 people could ask the exact same question in the exact same city for the exact same thing, and the AI might give them 5 different answers. But what we are seeing is there is more and more you can do to make sure you're one of those answers, and that the AI is doing a good job recommending the right people for the right thing. Okay. So another way of this is it's no longer about ranking first, but it's about being the best answer to the question people are asking. It's about being the best answer to the question they're asking. So that would be a great thing for you to think about in your marketing when you're creating content. How can we be the best answer to blank? Okay. All right, we only got a couple more slides here. So if anybody, we're going to end up ending early today. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Anything about SEO versus GEO? Anyone need any clarity there? And we got one more, well, 2 more slides, but only one more primary slide after this. All right, cool. If questions come up for anyone, let me know. By the way, I'm happy to stay on for some live Q&A, and whether we do that over chat or videos if everyone wants to, because I think we'll be done here in about 5 minutes or so. All right, so I told you earlier we were going to end with kind of an action plan slide. Here it is, okay? And so this summarizes a lot of what we talked about so far, but this is an action plan you can take and do yourself, or take to your marketing person if you have one. If you don't have one, stay tuned for the next slide. I'll tell you how we can help with that, okay? But let's unpack this a little bit, and make sure everyone feels good about where we're at. And if you feel like there's any specifics I didn't give you, feel free to ask that. Like, now's the time. I know we were macro and we started zooming in, but if I didn't zoom in enough for you, like, feel free to ask, right? Okay. A lot of times these webinars have to be driven by your questions. That's the only way I know for sure that I've actually given you what you want. Just got asked if the slides are available for download.
And Spanish for what?
That's something if give you everyone. We'll figure it out. I don't know if Paul, you heard my question, but I'm happy to provide them. Absolute worst case, on the very last slide, I have my email address. Just shoot me an email. I'll send them over to you. But Paul, we can send them out to everyone.
Yes, of course we can.
Okay, great. Well, there you go. Perfect. Cool. All right. So let's talk about the action plan. So first goal should be to show up everywhere and to show up consistently. We talked about keeping your business info consistent, NAP, right? Name, address, phone, but also some of the messaging. Also stay active across platforms. And I think a really big one is social media. And I think there's so many, we can do a whole webinar about social media and why I still think social media is being underutilized. Now that I said that, I will spend 20 seconds on it, but I won't spend more than that. But y'all, like, you need to really understand that social media is free. Like you could post 100 times a day if you wanted to, and there's no cost to that except, I mean, yeah, of course, the time to do it. But like in the world I live in of marketing, that's such a big deal because I'm a big fan of Mad Men. If there's any Mad Men fans in the chat, please let me know so I know I'm not alone. But I love the TV show Mad Men. And, you know, back then, I mean, really up until the early 2000s, if you wanted to do marketing, you had to pay for it. Okay. Like it was gated, meaning like, I mean, I'm looking out my window here in Miami and I can like see advertisements on buildings, right? Even when the internet first came out, everything was paid. Like if you wanted to advertise on Google, or did any of you all remember the days of like banner ads? I mean, we still see banner ads on websites, but like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, like that was hot, right? Like ads like on a website. Now we all hate them. But the point is you used to have to like pay somebody else to advertise for you. Social media changed that. Social media removed the middleman, and it basically said, and I've not hit 20 seconds yet, if anybody's wondering. But basically, what social media did is it said, you don't have to pay to advertise to people, but what you do have to do is actually create good content. It used to be that you could create the worst ad, but if you had the money, you could put that ad out there. Now you actually have to create a good ad or create a good piece of content, and it's free to do, right? The platforms, I mean, they do have a system where you can pay them, but overall, if you create good content and you post it organically for free and it's good, the platforms will reward you for that. So anyway, I feel like social media is hugely underutilized. People still don't understand, and they say, I post, nothing happened. Well, you're not posting enough. You haven't figured out how to be good at it yet. And that's why like post 5 or 6 times a day until you figure out what works, then do more of what works, right? So anyway, big opportunity there with social media that has not gone away. Also, in the world of AI, I think that's going to continue to play a big role because it's a place to create content, educate, build trust signals, things like that. Okay. All right. Number 2, create what we call answer first content. Okay, one really simple solution for this would be FAQs. I recommend all of you add FAQs to your website. You can also do this through blogs and videos. Okay, you could do all of the above, text-based FAQs, blog-based FAQs, video-based FAQs. If you do video, publish them on YouTube, publish them on your website. If you did these once a week or once a month, that would be great. But even if you just did a batch of 10 or 12 or 15 at once, that would still be worthwhile. All right. One of the things that we've seen that's been working well, now this is really getting granular, is this idea of using titles as questions and adding summaries and step-by-step answers. So what do I mean by this? So let's just use a blog real quick as an example. You want your blog title to maybe actually answer a question, right? Okay. You know, oh man, I'm blanking for the moment. I'll go back to that divorce example from earlier. But, you know, if people are asking the AI for advice about the divorce process, like if you wrote a blog about that, like what question are people asking and how can you play with your blog title to actually have that question in it? Okay. Then what we're seeing, and this is kind of new, is add like an executive summary. And by the way, you can have the AI help you write your executive summary, but add like a 2 to 4 sentence summary at the top of your blog, or even like at the top of your podcast. Like if you publish a podcast, because the AI is going to skim that before it reads like a whole blog. And so you're not, and by the way, humans will like this too. Humans will like content where the title answers a question and then there's like an executive summary. Humans will like that as well before they dive into all of your content. So we're seeing that little task actually show up in some pretty meaningful ways. So I wouldn't lose sleep over it if you're not doing it, but if it's an easy lift, I would maybe start playing with the titles of your blogs, podcasts, even like videos, and then where you can adding summaries. And then, especially if it's written, but even if it's video, you could do this step-by-step answers, things that kind of feel like do this, do this, do this. Okay. Or if it's advice, maybe it's the top 3 things for blank. So it's 1, 2, 3. So literally how you structure it is very organized and very like 1, 2, 3, 4 or A, B, C, D. That we're seeing that be really effective as well. And also, by the way, human beings tend to prefer to read content that way also when we're looking for like informational content. Okay. So that's number 2, is really answer first content. So number 1, show up everywhere, create more content. Number 2, do a lot of answer first content. By the way, all your content does not need to be this way. Okay. If you want to do TikTok dances or you want to do trends, I'm being a little bit facetious, but I genuinely mean, don't feel like everything you do has to be this, but make sure you do a lot of this. Okay. Number 3, we're building trust and authority. Okay, everything we already said would already do some of that. But again, getting more specific, reviews are going to be a big aspect of that. We talked about that earlier. I would prioritize that. It's not as important and it's also a little bit harder. But if you can get mentions, we put backlinks here, but it's not about the backlink. It is in the sense that if another website is talking about you, we want the backlink so that the AI knows for sure that we're talking about your business, right? Okay. But whether it's somebody's website, whether it's a forum like Reddit, whether it's partnerships you develop, whether it's a social media post where someone's sharing your business, anything you can do to get third parties to be sharing your business or your content and making sure that it's somehow connected back to your business, so that the AI recognizes that and makes that connection, that would be valuable. But admittedly, some of that's harder to navigate and create, okay? And then also when it comes to trust and authority, we talked about highlighting your experience, your certifications, awards, results. We didn't use that word earlier, but that's a good one too, like case studies. Man, case studies could be great if you have them on your website in a way that is indexed and accessible by AI, okay? And again, use press releases, blogs, videos even, to talk about these awards, to talk about these results, to talk about these certifications so that AI and human beings know what that all means and why it would matter to them. All right, 2 more things. Number 4, we're going to make it easy to choose you. How do we make it easy to choose you? Well, we make sure that the services are clear that you provide. Okay, we talked about pricing earlier, but we actually didn't talk about clear services. We use the word clear a lot, but I didn't really talk about services. I'm actually going to be honest, and I don't know who everyone's on this call or not, but I have a lot of sales calls, right, for my marketer. And to be honest with you, a lot of times business owners struggle to explain what they do in ways that I think the average person understands. And the thing is, if that's you actually probably don't know it, is the thing. I'm not saying it is all of you, but I'm just letting you know that happens a lot. So it might be something you want to find a way to check with some peers or something. But why does this matter? Because sometimes I go to y'all's websites and like I'm still not sure in layman's terms what you do. And so in the world of AI and AI search and AI recommendations, it's so important that it's really simple. It's really elementary to understand what you do and who you do it for. Okay, so make sure your content is making that really, really clear. And I'm sure your implementer would be thrilled to help you do that. And then the last bullet there on number 4 is we put why you messaging. This is getting into the personality, the core values, the aggressive versus the more amicable divorce law firm, whatever it might be. But this is where you don't need to be Simon Sinek, who wrote Start With Why. You don't need to be him to figure this out. You just need to understand your product or service and understand who you do it for, and then start to really think about why do you do it for them? What makes them the right client for you? Put that into words. If you need help with that, ironically, AI can help you with that. And then start to use that messaging Okay, because like I said, AI results are going to get more personalized and more custom. So you want to really start thinking about how your messaging. It used to be in marketing, we want to think about how our messaging connects properly with our target market, which is still the case. But now we're entering this world where we want to make sure that the AI understands the messaging so that it recommends us to the right people. So it's like a small little shift. Okay. So that's making it easy to choose you by making sure what you do is clear, that your pricing, or at least some information around pricing is clear, what the process is for your service or product. And then, why should someone choose you? What makes you the right fit for them, or what makes them the right fit for you? And look for more ways to put that into your content. Last thing is, again, just some of that nerdy stuff with your website, because even in this world of AI, your website is still the main hub online for everything about your business. So you want to make sure it's fast. You want to make sure it's mobile friendly. You want to make sure it's structured and easy to navigate. We talked about schema markup a little bit, SSL certificates, privacy policy. So just some boxes that you probably want to check anyway. But they are important to AI. And so this is a good reminder to go ahead and double check those. Any questions for well, actually, here's what we'll do, because we got about 7 minutes left. If anybody is interested in getting help executing this, again, what My Marketer does is we actually give you your own part or full-time marketing assistant. But here's the really cool thing. We continue to train, coach, and support them even after we give them to you. That's kind of our unique selling point. That's what makes us special, is that we don't just give you somebody and then disappear. We actually continue to coach, train, and support that marketing assistant behind the scenes. So you get your own person, part of your team, part of your core values, but they're going to get that marketing, coaching, and support behind the scenes. So if that interests you, schedule a discovery call with me with the QR code, or just go into our website. Separately, if you have any reason you want to connect with me or have a question for me, my email address is right there at the bottom, Mark with a C @mymarketer.com. Okay. So I'll leave that up, and I'm happy to open it up to questions in the chat, or if people want to raise their hand and unmute, that's fine too. And if everybody signs off, you won't hurt my feelings, but I am going to hang out for a little bit and happy to help, and would love to see some of your faces or get a question in the chat.
I have a question. I missed a little bit of the beginning, so I apologize if that was mentioned. Here we're focusing on ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT has been mentioned a few times. Are you specific about ChatGPT, or are you talking overall about the different?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I did comment on that early on. All of my slides said ChatGPT, because we've done a similar webinar once before, and that was the language we used. But we are finding that most of the advice today is pretty universal.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's also always changing a little bit, but there's also some logic. Some of the stuff we talked about today, like, I'm pretty sure Gemini's looking at the same things, Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And by the way, shameless plug, if you like the slides today, one of the marketers in our program built them. All right, anybody else? Feel free to go to the chat or just unmute yourself and fire away.
What's the best way to connect with you for a quick conversation?
Yeah, well, if my email is there at the bottom, if you want to shoot me an email. If you're actually interested in what we do, scanning the QR code's even better, because then you can actually schedule with me.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks for asking that.
And while we wait for more questions, please note that if you gave us your contact information, or if you want to put your email on the chat, we will make sure that you get the recording and the slides. Just give us a little while we receive all the information. But yep, you can share this, and of course contact Mark for more questions and for a very particular and amazing one-on-one with him.
Yeah,
And
we got a good question in the chat. Can I jump in? Is that okay?
yes, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Brandon asked if there's a productive way to do social media without having videos of his lovely self all over. 100%. So a couple different things, right? We could talk about this easily for like 20 minutes, but okay, a couple of things. Number one, if you have staff, some of them might actually be interested in doing that. Like, if you're cool with it, like some of them might love the challenge or the opportunity to create content and talk about some things. If that's not an option, like, and there's AI that can help you with this too, and it's only getting better, but like you could do things that don't have a person in them. Like you can, like, there's a lot of like video content that might be, maybe it's you speaking or it's somebody else speaking, but you're using like images or like B-roll or things like that. Also, I don't know. So like also there's some, Sora was doing this for a while and unfortunately they shut down, but I'm sure there's another solution. I just haven't looked into it yet, but a lot of people were actually creating AI versions of themselves and it was really good. So like if you're okay being on social media, you just don't want to have to do it all the time, you can create an AI version of yourself. And I've seen really good results with that. And then another idea I'll just give you before I go to the next question is maybe you want to create like a character. So on my screen right now, this is Sandra. This is Sandra, the marketing superhero. And she is our mascot, if you will. She is the ultimate marketing assistant, right? We want to give you a Sandra. And so we actually have some content that is Sandra talking, right? Even our email marketing is from Sandra. Okay, so fun things to play with, I'll jump to the next question here. But my wife, she owns her own health practice, and she actually asked Gary Vee this question one time because she wasn't sure if she wanted to be on social media, and Gary said something about creating like a character, and she was like, "Really? Do you think that would work?" And he was like, "You ever heard of Mickey Mouse?" Right? So I just thought that was kind of a really great point, right? Like it sure worked for Disney, right? So a lot of things you could try. We had one more question here. What do you recommend if we don't have a blog today? Should we build it in WordPress and link to the website, maybe doing it directly in LinkedIn, for example, or Substack? I don't know a ton of the benefits of doing it off your website, okay? But I do highly believe that having a on-site blog is valuable, because your website is still like the main hub of your business online, and having fresh content on your website is important. And blogs are like the easiest way to put fresh content on your website. So if you're creating blogs and you're publishing them elsewhere and not on your website, I think you're missing out. There might also then be benefit for doing it on LinkedIn or on Substack, but I would not do that in place of a blog on your website. And no, even though you didn't ask this, I want everyone to hear this. It is not too late to start a blog. Okay. Even before AI, it wasn't too late. But in this world of AI, where at least for right now, the biggest thing the AI is scanning is content. For the longest time, I heard people say no one reads blogs anymore. I don't know if they're right or not. But you know what I do know? The AI reads your blogs, right? Okay. So I hope that answers that question. All right. Great. I hope that was helpful to everyone. Again, if you need marketing help, I would love to tell you about what we do. You can go to mymarketer.com or scan the QR code. If you just have any marketing questions for me, like that's cool too. Like you don't have to hire us. Just shoot me an email, mark@mymarketer.com. So.
Thank you so much, Mark. This was amazing. And by the way, at TPR, we do have a blog, and I just posted it on the chat. And we have more events for you to sign up and to actually have amazing experts just like Mark throughout the entire year. There's more than 30 events, so pick one.
And you guys have a marketer from our program that works for you. So.
By the way, I was about to say that, Mark.
Oh, okay.
The coordinator is from my marketer, and we couldn't be happier. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone that registered, we already have your emails. Don't worry, you'll get the information. And thanks for everyone for participating, for being on time. And thank you so much. It's been a great joy having you here. We hope to see you in the next events. Thank you, everyone.